For centuries, humans had lived on a small blue planet called Earth, nestled in the vastness of the galaxy. Over time, Earth grew from a simple home to something much bigger, a powerful force that many other beings in the galaxy noticed. Humans had become explorers, traders, fighters, and innovators. They had learned how to travel between stars, build incredible machines, and even alter the very fabric of space and time. But as humans grew stronger, they also began to feel something they had never felt before. Fear. Not fear of enemies or monsters, but fear of losing themselves. The galaxy was crowded with many species, aliens of all shapes, sizes, and ideas. Some were friendly and curious, wanting to share knowledge. Others were greedy or suspicious, always looking for ways to control new worlds and resources. For humans, their home, Earth, was special. It was the place where their story began. And after so many years of contact with other races, they realized the price they paid when others crossed their borders without permission. Many times, humans had welcomed strangers. They had shared their technology and knowledge, but those meetings did not always end well. Some alien civilizations saw Earth not as a friend, but as a prize to conquer or a laboratory for strange experiments. Sometimes these outsiders sent spies or worse, soldiers disguised as traders. The more humans encountered these threats, the more they realized they needed to protect their home like never before. And so, a decision was made. The leaders of Earth gathered in a place where they could speak freely and plan for the future. After long discussions and debates, they agreed on something clear and powerful. Earth's borders would be closed. The announcement was simple but firm. Humans declared that from now on, no one was allowed to enter Terran space without permission. The borders around Earth and the nearby planets would be off-limits to everyone. This was not a request. It was a command. The announcement was sent across the galaxy through every possible communication channel. The message was delivered with no room for misunderstanding. Terran borders are now sovereign and off-limits. Anyone who crosses will be treated as an enemy. It was a warning that humans were serious about defending their home. For many in the galaxy, this news was shocking. Humans had always been seen as open and curious explorers. Closing their borders seemed like a sudden, harsh change. Many wondered why humans would isolate themselves like this, especially when the galaxy was filled with opportunities for trade, friendship, and knowledge. But those who understood the history behind the announcement saw it differently. They knew humans had been pushed too far. For too long, others had taken advantage of human kindness. Some had tried to steal Earth's resources. Others had sent secret agents to gather information or sabotage human projects. And worst of all, some had even threatened to destroy parts of Earth to gain power. So closing the borders was not just about keeping others out. It was about protecting the future of humanity itself. The method humans used to enforce this new rule was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of building walls or armies on the borders, humans used a new kind of technology. They created what was called a quantum cloaking barrier, a shield made from the tiniest particles of the universe, woven together with advanced science. This shield did not just block ships or signals. It hid Earth completely. It was like the planet had disappeared. No one could see Earth or the nearby planets with regular space instruments anymore. No transmissions could be sent or received. The Sol system, which humans called home, had become invisible. With this, humans also recalled all their ambassadors and representatives from other worlds. They closed their embassies and communication centers. The galaxy was left with silence from the humans. Some saw this silence as weakness. They believed humans were afraid. They thought this was just a temporary retreat. Others were angry. They saw the announcement as a challenge, a sign that humans were trying to control space in a way that no one else could. These voices grew louder, and the idea of testing human resolve began to spread among some groups. Meanwhile, back on Earth, life continued. People went about their daily routines, unaware that their decision had already started changing the galaxy around them. The quiet strength of humanity was now a shield, protecting everything they held dear. This moment marked the beginning of a new chapter in human history. A chapter where Earth was no longer just a planet among many, but a fortress hidden behind a veil of mystery and power. The galaxy watched closely, waiting to see what would happen next. After humans announced that their borders were closed and Earth had vanished behind a powerful shield, many in the galaxy were curious. What exactly was happening inside that invisible barrier? Was humanity hiding? Or was it preparing for something big? At first, smaller groups and less powerful species decided to test the boundaries. These were not the great empires or mighty fleets, but curious explorers, scavengers, and traders who hoped to sneak inside Terran space and maybe find something valuable left behind. They wanted to see if Earth's defenses were real or just a bluff. One by one, small ships tried to cross the border. None returned. Not a single message came back to report what happened. Their communication devices went silent the moment they entered the hidden zone. Those who watched from outside could only guess what fate had befallen those ships. Some believed they were destroyed by advanced weapons. Others thought the ships might have been captured or even taken somewhere for study. But no one knew for sure. This silence was unsettling. It was the first real proof that humans were serious. Their new border wasn't just a warning, it was a wall, and it could strike back. Next came the mid-level powers. These were species who had stronger fleets and more experience in interstellar politics. They were not easily scared. They had fought wars and won. They had maps, spies, and secret agents. They thought they could figure out what was happening and maybe find a way to get through. Among them was a proud warrior species known for their strength and skill. They had built a fleet of warships, each heavily armed and fast. They decided to send a fleet of 20 ships toward Earth's closest neighbor, Mars. This was meant to be a show of force, a way to prove to humans that the galaxy would not be pushed around. The fleet moved confidently through space, tracking their course carefully. But when they approached Mars, something strange happened. The entire fleet disappeared. There were no battles, no explosions, no distress signals. The ship simply vanished. After weeks, some debris started drifting back. Metal scraps twisted as if caught in a terrible storm of energy. It looked like the fleet had passed through something powerful enough to break their ships apart without a trace. This event sent shockwaves through the galaxy. No one could explain what had happened to the fleet. Many theories emerged. Some said humans had developed weapons that could destroy entire fleets instantly. Others believed there was a hidden force field, or a new kind of technology beyond anything known. But one thing was clear. Trying to enter Terran space without permission was extremely dangerous. Still, despite the risks, the galaxy did not completely give up on testing humanity. Some saw the losses as warnings, but others saw them as challenges. A few smaller groups believed that humans were bluffing. They thought if they acted carefully, they could sneak in and uncover Earth's secrets. These groups sent small, fast ships with stealth technology, hoping to avoid detection. But again, none returned. Over time, a pattern formed. Anyone who crossed the border disappeared. No one sent messages. No one came back with stories or warnings. It was as if Earth was protected by an invisible shield that swallowed anything that dared to enter. Meanwhile, inside Terran space, humans continued their lives in peace. They knew that their strength was not just in their weapons or technology, but in their unity. They had worked hard to build a society that valued knowledge, respect, and survival. The people understood that the border was not meant to isolate them out of fear, but to protect their way of life. From Earth's perspective, closing the borders was a painful but necessary choice. Humans had seen what happened to other civilizations that allowed outsiders in without control. They had seen worlds exploited, cultures destroyed, and resources stolen. This time, humanity wanted to be different. The quiet strength behind the border was a promise that Earth would defend itself, no matter the cost. Back in the galaxy beyond the border, many species began to respect this new reality. They realized that humans were not just another species to negotiate with or fight. Humans had become a force that even the strongest empires had to consider carefully. Still, the galaxy was large, and not everyone accepted this change peacefully. There were whispers in dark corners of the galaxy. Some said the humans had discovered powers beyond normal understanding, powers that could bend space and time itself. Others believed humans had found ways to control gravity and energy in ways no one else could. These stories made many uneasy. What if the humans were no longer just people? What if they had become something more? As the years passed, those who had once ignored the warnings began to pay attention. The galaxy learned that humanity was not just hiding behind a shield. Humans were evolving, preparing, and growing stronger. And for those who did not listen, the consequences were clear. The border was not a line to cross lightly. The story of the disappearing fleets and silent ships became a legend in the galaxy. It was a reminder that some borders were sacred, and some warnings were final. Humans had sent a message without firing a shot. Their border was closed, and anyone who tried to break it would disappear without a trace. The galaxy had to decide: respect this new order or risk paying a price no one had seen before. After the strange silence around Earth, the galaxy became restless. People from far-off worlds were whispering. Rumors spread like wildfire: ships disappearing, no signals coming back, strange pieces of metal drifting in space. Everyone had heard about the new Terran borders, but most didn't believe humans were really that powerful. They thought maybe Earth was hiding behind tricks, smoke, and mirrors. The galaxy was used to power struggles. Empires rose and fell all the time. Big declarations like the one humans had made usually turned out to be empty threats. So when Earth cut off contact and told everyone to stay away, many powerful species didn't take it seriously. They thought humans were just scared or trying to act important. So the galaxy decided to test them, again. But this time, not with small scavenger ships or careless explorers. This time it was organized. A group of 6 powerful civilizations came together. These were old empires, rich with resources, ships, and experience. They had been around for thousands of years. They controlled large parts of the galaxy, and they didn't like being told what to do, especially not by a younger species like humans. This group called themselves the Galactic Conquered. Together, they had fleets bigger than planets and technology that could move stars. They had ruled over other species for generations. So when humans declared their borders off limits, the Conquered felt challenged, even insulted. They gathered in a secret meeting on a distant moon, far from Earth. Leaders, generals, and scientists sat together, debating what to do about the Terran problem. Some wanted to attack Earth directly and break the shield. Others were more cautious. They didn't want a war, but they also didn't want to sit quietly while humans took control of a large part of the galaxy. In the end, they agreed on something in the middle. They would send a mission. Officially, it would be a diplomatic and scientific effort, just a way to check on Earth, study the border, and gather information. But in reality, it was much more. Hidden inside the mission were secret probes designed to scan deep into Terran space. Some were invisible to most sensors, and others were small enough to pass as space dust. Their job was to find out what humans were doing and how dangerous they really were. The Conquered believed that if they could learn the truth, they might find a weakness. So the mission began. Probes were launched from hidden bases and moved slowly toward the edge of Terran space. They didn't enter all at once. They crept in, one by one, carefully avoiding direct detection. Advanced scanners tracked every bit of energy, light, and signal coming from Earth's direction. For a short while, everything was quiet. The probes floated through the darkness, collecting data. Some of them even crossed the border and kept going. It was then that something strange happened. Every ship, station, and command center belonging to the Galactic Concord suddenly froze. Screens flickered, lights dimmed. Every communication device, from the smallest personal unit to the largest command bridge, lit up with a single message, clear and direct: "We warned you." There was no voice, no face, just words. But those words reached every corner of the 6 empires at the exact same moment. Panic broke out. Technicians scrambled to figure out how the message got through their strongest firewalls. Engineers tried to shut the systems down and restart them. But nothing worked. It was as if something or someone had taken full control. Then, without warning, all the systems returned to normal. The screens shut off. The power came back. But what happened next left the galaxy speechless. A star, a real living star about 30 light-years away from Earth, blinked out. For less than half a second, the star collapsed on itself and went dark. Then it came back to life, burning again like nothing had happened. But scientists who observed it were shocked. The energy from that brief collapse sent waves across space, and those waves carried something with them, a signal. It was human, not a voice, not a message, just a signature. But anyone with the tools to study space-time could recognize what it meant. Humans hadn't just found a way to defend their planet, They had found a way to play with the building blocks of the universe. To stop a star from shining, even for a moment, was something no known civilization had ever done. That kind of power didn't belong to ships or weapons. It belonged to legends. It belonged to forces that shaped galaxies. The six empires went silent. No one spoke of war anymore. The leaders who had ordered the secret probe mission quietly shut down the program. Every single probe that had crossed the Terran border disappeared, just like the others. No signal, no parts, no trace. Now, fear started to grow, not just because humans were strong, but because no one could understand how they had become so strong. The last time the galaxy had seen Earth, humans were advanced, yes, but still normal. They had ships, AI, and colonies, but they followed the same rules as everyone else. But now they seemed different. People began to wonder, what had happened inside that cloaked zone around Earth? What had humans discovered in their silence? Some said they had unlocked ancient knowledge hidden deep within the planet. Others believed they had made contact with something beyond the known universe, something that taught them to shape energy and time. The truth was, no one really knew, and that made it worse. Across the galaxy, governments met in secret. Some wanted to prepare defenses just in case Earth ever decided to expand again. Others said it was better to leave humans alone, respect the border, and never provoke them again. Even the Concord, once proud and powerful, became quiet. They had seen enough, because this wasn't just about ships or weapons anymore. This was about understanding that a line had been drawn in space, and humans had become something more than anyone expected. And the message was clear: we warned you. After the shocking display of power that the galaxy witnessed, the moment when a star blinked out and then came back to life, something unexpected happened. The galaxy went quiet. Not just the leaders or the great empires, but everyone. There were no loud announcements, no bold moves, no new attacks on Earth's hidden borders. Instead, a heavy silence settled over space, as if everyone was holding their breath. Humans had vanished from the eyes of the galaxy for years. They had closed their borders, hiding behind an invisible shield no one could penetrate. But now, after revealing just a glimpse of their new power, they seemed even more mysterious than before. For 15 long years, no one heard from Earth. No messages. No signs of ships traveling beyond the hidden borders. Nothing but quiet. The galaxy had never experienced silence like this. Usually, when a powerful civilization wanted to send a message, they made it loud and clear. They launched fleets, built monuments, or broadcast signals across space. But humans chose silence. And silence, in this case, was louder than any explosion. During those years, the galaxy's scientists, thinkers, and leaders tried to understand what had changed on Earth. They studied every piece of information, every signal they could catch near the borders. But the data was scarce and confusing. It was as if the planet itself was protected by a force beyond anything anyone had seen. Rumors began to spread. Some said that humans had transformed, no longer fully human, but something more. Some whispered about post-humans, beings who had fused with machines, or who had evolved to control time and space itself. Others believed humans had discovered ancient knowledge hidden deep within their planet. Maybe they found lost secrets buried under ice or oceans, or unlocked energy sources that had been waiting for centuries. Whatever the truth, it was clear humans had changed, and this change was not only technological, it was also cultural. Stories reached the far corners of the galaxy about strange visitors appearing suddenly on distant planets, visitors who looked human, but whose eyes glowed faintly, who spoke in calm, deep voices, and who seemed to disappear without a trace. These beings didn't come to conquer or trade. They came to warn. They warned other species to stay away from Terran space. They spoke of consequences far worse than war or weapons, of realities bending, time twisting, and existence itself being fragile. No one really understood the full meaning of these warnings, but those who heard them said they felt an undeniable weight, as if the universe itself was reminding them to respect the boundaries. Even the most powerful empires grew cautious. Governments invested heavily in research to understand the new human abilities. Secret projects worked on technology that could counteract time distortions or gravity shifts. hoping to prepare for what might come next. But no project succeeded. Every attempt to match human power fell short. Meanwhile, the galaxy's news and culture began to change. Books were written about Earth's sudden disappearance and reappearance as a cosmic mystery. Artists created paintings and music inspired by the silence and power of humans. Some religions even began to include stories of the Terran transformation, viewing humanity as a sign of something greater. In a way, humans had become legends. They were no longer just a species. They were a symbol of mystery, strength, and the unknown. Back on Earth, life had not stopped during those 15 years. Humans were quietly building a future behind the invisible shield. They worked on new technologies, explored deeper into science, and strengthened their society. They understood that power alone was not enough. They needed to be ready for what the galaxy might bring in the future. So they changed themselves. Humans used advanced technology to enhance their bodies and minds. They integrated machines with biology in ways that blurred the lines between the two. They studied time, gravity, and energy, learning to control forces that had once seemed impossible. But they also kept their humanity, their values, hopes, and dreams. This was the key difference between humans and other species. Humans were not just strong. They were adaptable, curious, and connected to each other. They knew that their future depended on unity and understanding, not just weapons and shields. Outside the border, many species waited and watched, wondering when humans would return. But no one knew if they ever would. Some hoped for peace and friendship. Others feared conflict, but for now, the galaxy had learned one important lesson. Humanity was no longer the same. They had grown beyond the reach of ordinary space and time, and those who wished to challenge them would have to pay a very high price. The galaxy waited. For years, the silence from Earth felt heavier than any noise. No ships left the hidden zone. No signals passed the invisible borders. It was as if Earth had vanished from existence, but everyone knew better. Earth was still there, powerful, watchful, and changed. Outside the borders, civilizations grew uneasy. Many leaders gathered in secret, worried about what might happen next. Some believed humans were planning to return, stronger and ready to take control of more territory. Others thought humans had simply moved beyond interest in the rest of the galaxy. But all agreed on one thing. The rules of space had changed. The galaxy was no longer safe to explore as it once had been. The peaceful freedom of travel, trade, and discovery now felt fragile and uncertain. Many species started to prepare. They built defenses. They developed new technologies designed to detect hidden threats. They trained their fleets to respond faster and smarter. The memory of the star that blinked out was a constant reminder of the power they faced. Yet, despite all this fear and preparation, some voices in the galaxy dared to speak differently. These were the voices of hope. Among the great empires, small groups of diplomats, scientists, and dreamers believed there was a chance for peace. They believed that humans were not enemies but potential partners. That maybe, just maybe, humanity's strength could be used to protect all species, not just itself. These groups began working quietly, trying to send messages beyond the border, messages not of war or challenge, but of understanding and friendship. For years, their attempts were met with silence. No answer came from Earth, until one day, a single message appeared on the edge of the invisible border. It was brief and simple. We watch, we listen. It was the first sign from humans in over a decade. Not a threat, not a command, but a statement of presence. The galaxy reacted with mixed emotions. Relief, excitement, fear, and suspicion all mixed together. Was this an invitation? A warning? Or something else entirely? Slowly, more messages followed, sent from human outposts on the very edge of their hidden space. These messages were carefully worded, encouraging peace but warning against crossing the border. Humans explained they were not interested in fighting. Their goal was survival of their species, their planet, and their way of life. They spoke of a future where cooperation could be possible, but only if respect was mutual. This changed the conversation in the galaxy. Many leaders began to reconsider their stance. Could there really be a way to build trust with such a mysterious and powerful species? At the same time, scientists from different civilizations tried to understand what had changed humans so much. They studied the old data and the new signals. They asked questions like, how did humans control stars? How had they altered their biology and technology? What secrets did they hold? And while many questions remained unanswered, the hope for peace began to grow. Back on Earth, humans were watching the galaxy's response carefully. They knew trust could not be demanded. It had to be earned. They also knew that power without wisdom could lead to destruction. So, they took their time. They sent small teams to meet with trusted envoys from other species at secret meeting points far from Earth. These meetings were cautious and slow, with both sides testing each other's intentions. Over time, a fragile bridge of communication began to form. Humans shared some of their technology, carefully chosen pieces that could help others improve energy sources or medical treatments. In return, they learned about alien cultures, their histories, and their hopes. These exchanges were small steps, but important ones. They showed that even after years of silence and fear, cooperation was possible. However, not everyone in the galaxy welcomed this new approach. There were still many who saw humans as threats to be destroyed. Old empires jealous of human power or fearful of losing control began to plot in the shadows. These groups spread rumors and false information to stir fear and distrust. They warned others that humans were planning to invade and enslave other species. Tensions rose. Skirmishes broke out near the borders of Terran space, with small groups attacking patrols or sabotage missions launched from either side. For humans, this was a painful reminder that their borders were not just lines in space, but walls that divided not only planets but hearts. They had hoped their new power would bring safety and peace. But it also brought fear and suspicion. Still, humans refused to back down. They increased their efforts to build trust, sending more envoys and sharing knowledge, always emphasizing respect and mutual benefit. They knew that the path ahead would be difficult. It would require patience, courage, and understanding. But they were ready, because humanity had learned an important lesson. True strength was not just about power. It was about connection. And no matter how advanced they became, humans would always be human at heart, seeking peace, understanding, and a place in the vast universe. Years passed after the first cautious messages from Earth. The galaxy was changing. The old fears and doubts began to soften in some places. Slowly, more species started to believe that humans were serious about peace. This did not happen quickly. It took time, many talks, and several small agreements to build trust. But trust grew like a seed in fertile soil. Humans understood that the past silence had created fear and mystery, so they worked hard to be clear and open in their words and actions. They didn't want to intimidate anyone. They wanted to show that power was not for domination, but for protection and growth. Small human ships began to move closer to the borders. These ships carried scientists, diplomats, and explorers, not soldiers. They came to share knowledge about health, technology, and the environment. They shared stories of Earth's history, culture, and dreams. These were not just simple talks. They were acts of kindness meant to bridge the long silence. Many species were surprised. They expected humans to be cold and distant, but they found warmth, curiosity, and respect. The galaxy slowly began to open its eyes to a new reality, but not everyone welcomed this change. There were still groups who held on to old fears and suspicions. They spread rumors and tried to stop any peaceful meetings. Some even tried to sabotage the growing trust by attacking peaceful missions or spreading lies about human intentions. These actions threatened to pull the galaxy back into conflict. Humans faced a difficult choice. They could respond with force, showing their power again, or they could continue their path of patience and understanding. They chose the latter. Humans believed that true peace came not from fear but from respect and cooperation, so they increased their efforts to help others, sharing medical technology that saved lives, energy systems that did not harm the environment, and education programs that taught the value of peace. These acts began to change minds and hearts. Leaders from different worlds started to visit Earth. They saw the changes humans had made and the efforts to protect their planet and their people. These visits led to more agreements, treaties about shared resources, defense, and cultural exchange. The galaxy was no longer divided by fear and silence. It was beginning to build connections. Humans also learned a great deal during this time. They learned about other species' struggles, hopes, and histories. They understood that no civilization was perfect. Every species had faced challenges and made mistakes. This understanding made humans humble and more determined to build a better future. One of the greatest challenges was the question of power. How could the galaxy balance the incredible power humans had shown with the need for peace and fairness? Humans proposed a new idea, a council where all species could meet as equals. Here, decisions about peace, exploration, and technology would be discussed openly and fairly. At first, some powerful empires resisted. They feared losing control or being overshadowed by humans. But slowly, as trust grew, many saw the value in working together. This council became a symbol of a new era. It was not perfect. There were disagreements and struggles, but it was a place where voices could be heard and differences could be worked through. The galaxy began to heal. On Earth, humans felt hopeful. They knew that their journey had not been easy. Closing their borders had been painful but necessary. It had protected them and given them time to grow stronger, not just in technology but in spirit. Humans remembered the lessons of the past, how fear and misunderstanding had almost led to disaster. They were determined that the future would be different. As humans and their neighbors worked together, they began to explore deeper into space, not as rivals but as partners. They searched for new worlds, shared discoveries, and faced challenges together. This new unity was fragile but precious. The story of humans closing their borders and warning the galaxy was no longer just about power or fear. It had become a story about hope, change, and the possibility of peace. And in the vastness of space where stars shine and worlds spin, humanity had found a way to reach out, not with weapons or threats, but with hands open to friendship. The galaxy was still wide and full of mysteries, but now, the story of humans was a story of light, a light that reminded everyone that even in the darkest places, understanding and respect could shine the brightest. Would you like me to help you turn any of these parts into a video script or add more details?